Party's not a party's a man who fights crime, and we're gonna watch him fight for a minute at a time with John and Niall and a guest who doesn't rhyme. It's Bat Minute!
Attention, citizens of fair Gotham, and welcome once again to Bat Minute and Robin, the show that creates an audio paradise 3 days a week. I am one of your hosts, your paradise giver, John Parker.
And I've always had a hankering to talk about this minute. So it's me. I'm here to do that. Niall McGowan.
Can you please do that voice for not the rest of the week, for the whole movie?
Well, I'll try, but I can't promise anything, John.
No, I'm up for that. That sounds good. Keep it up. Keep it up. And we are joined once again by our very, very special guest. It's Anna Bogutskaya.
I really planned in my head to do the Poison Ivy voice, and then I chickened out at the very last second. Hello.
God damn it! You should just do it. No one's will be as bad as mine.
Listen, you can ask Clarice Lockery. I am so bad at voices. It's like one of the two talents that I just like. I'm desperate to have and to hone, and I'm completely like hopelessly untalented in. I can do two accents. I can do generic Eastern European, and I can do Valley Girl. Those are my two options. I've got nothing else.
I mean, you could do a good Alicia Silverstone then, technically, I guess.
Yeah.
The big revelation for me this season so far is because when we do the outros, I always say, like, well, Arnie impressions are, encouraged but not mandatory. And I've been stunned because I always assumed that everybody has like an Arnie impersonation like in their back pocket. Like, oh, everyone does them. But a lot of people are like, oh, no, I'm not going to try that. It's like, I thought like everybody just did an Arnie because he was just such a cultural force that everyone kind of did the accent.
Yeah, because even to like Austrian people, he sounds funny, apparently. So,
yeah.
Does he sound funny to Austrian people?
Yeah, that's what I've heard. Like it's a strange accent. It's like a country bumpkin, a yokel.
Apparently, they said in the German release of the Terminator movies, they don't let him dub in his own lines because apparently he sounds so rural to them. That it's like it would be like having like a hillbilly playing the Terminator, and they're like, we can't have that. That you won't be able to take him seriously. So
that's weirdly classist of them.
Oh, it is. It is really.
So.
Yeah. But we are here anyway to talk about minute 59. The minute starts with Extreme Makeovers Home Edition, and we end with good old Bane the Cook once more.
I will say this really, because of what's been released this month, and seeing the decor of this place when it's in its like Gollum-owned fashion, all the sheets of like the skulls and spray painted stuff and that kind of luminous green and purple and whatnot. Really reminded me of the original like posters for like the old Suicide Squad, like the 2016 Suicide Squad.
The bad one.
Suicide Squad. Oh, it's so old from so long ago.
But like I just got a vision now of James Gunn coming in and doing this in the studio, and like, yep, get rid of this. Like, what is this floor? I've always had a hankering for more rats in this movie.
You know what got me about that Suicide Squad poster was always it's a cool poster. But it does not match the movie. It makes it look like the new Suicide Squad would have that poster.
Yeah, I think that was one of the many problems with the film was that they promoted it to look like a different film than it actually a much more. I think they tried to like fit a square peg into a round hole because they had the kind of thing that was made to be a bit more serious, and then they wanted to turn it into Guardians of the Galaxy. So they kind of...
I mean, you've just described most of movie marketing anyway. It's quite hard to market a movie and make it authentic to what it is. Just think of like Jennifer's Body, which was marketed as something radically the opposite of what the film actually is. And just now, over a decade later, people are like, wait, no, it's actually a good film. But the poster's shit, right? Yeah, it's universally acclaimed as shit.
I've literally, that's amazing that you brought that up because I have only just this year, as of recording, started hearing loads of people saying that was actually a good film. I think there's going to be a renaissance for her. Actually, I think she's going to be coming back strong.
With Diablo Cody or
Megan Fox.
Megan
I
Fox.
meant Megan Fox. Yeah.
Because Diablo Cody did that Powerpuff Girls script that got the arse ripped out of it. So, although I'm dying, please God, let them leak that pilot. Something like the whole film thing. I have to see it now. It sounds so awful.
I think it started a few years ago, but it's really been strong over the past year or two, the whole Jennifer's Body rediscovery. And I think especially because people are now reconsidering celebrities, especially female celebrities from the 2000s, and be like, oh wait, we were really mean to women in the 2000s. And Megan Fox particularly, because she's a particular brand of actress, and was very outspoken as well, even in her peak in the like around the Transformers era in the mid 2000s and stuff. And people just absolutely bashed her in the media constantly. People hated her. It was really, really aggressive. Like if you look back at some of the coverage of her now, it's like, holy shit, what did Megan Fox ever do to you aside from being hot?
I know, it's so weird, isn't it? And like they would kind of say how she's the worst thing in the Transformers movie. She's just there to look sexy. It's like, well, how's that her fault? Like,
Exactly.
the director.
Although now with that in mind, Megan Fox wouldn't be a bad Poison Ivy.
She'd be a great Poison Ivy. That's such a good shout.
Oh my god! Yeah, why did we never...
that could be her renaissance. Like I know she's in like something, but the fact she's co-starring in something with Bruce Willis this year is like, well, that's a bad sign.
Sadly, it is these days, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah. So hopefully she can get out of the Bruce Willis, direct to DVD hellhole and maybe nag herself a Poison Ivy role.
Because she's got such a great line delivery. Like she's got such a great deadpan comedic line delivery, in Jennifer's Body and in other stuff she's done. And she's a bisexual queen, so her as Poison Ivy in this potential Harley Quinn Poison Ivy spin-off thing that Margot Robbie has been talking about. Oh, I would like literally take my money now.
Oh, those two
so
so
up
well
for it.
together, actually. Yeah, that's a winning duo. Come on, Hollywood.
Truly, all like just giving away free ideas.
Yeah, I mean, you can send the check to us three. We can all split it. It's fine. One thing I like in this scene as well, here at the start when Bane's doing his renovations, is there's some good attention to detail. Dare I say, keeping it realistic, in that the gang in here, they wanted the lighting low to cover their activities, but Ivy immediately has to get Bane to uncover the windows. She needs sunlight. The plants. Think of the plants. She's going to be growing stuff. Get the light.
I thought it was weird because I thought it was nighttime when they came in.
It's just because it's like a drug den.
Yeah. So I don't know if it's supposed to be. Maybe that's like a street lamp outside, and it's just been going through like a purple tinted window. And then when the sunlight is out, it will shine in natural sunlight. But at the moment, it was like, was there a massive time jump or something? Where it's like, or did they go in at 6 a.m. and like, yeah, now it's like 10 past 6, so the sun's up or what?
You have to wait round the corner. You don't attack a gang at night. In the daytime, their powers have weakened. That's what you need.
Maybe it's just dawning, because if you notice, the light is like quite pink. I was like, is that a filter that they put up on the window? Something I really frankly doubt from the gang. Or is it just kind of that magical pinkish sunrise light?
Oh, I love that light. Yeah, that's beautiful. Although I do love the idea of the gang going, you know what, this place could use some nice pink lighting.
Or it used to be a Turkish bath, so maybe previously it was part of like the bathing pink, healing light that they had coming in or something.
Clearly you're experienced in this now.
I also do like the idea, though, if it is the dawn, that would indicate that Bane and Poison Ivy were walking around the entire night. And so she must be like, she is dying to sit down, I think, at this point. It's like, thank Christ, we found somewhere, finally.
Oh, then she comes out with a cracking line where she's like, I've always hankered for something on the water. Which is wonderful because Bane seems to take this literally. So smashes the floor, exposing the dirt and breaking a water pipe. Here you go. Here's your water.
Listen, Bane always understands the assignment. He's like, you want water? Here you go.
Yeah, she never has to actually explain to him. He just knows, doesn't he?
Yes.
Yeah. I know that. I'm beginning to wonder now a lot about Ivy's powers, because we do see them throughout this minute, and I think in the comics they call it like chlorokinesis, which is like her ability to control the plants and stuff. But I think maybe it is a thing because Bane was injected with the venom, and then she was, covered in a venom and other stuff concoction. So maybe through that she has like a psychic link with him. Maybe so when she says something, he automatically understands her because they're in tune, and that's why she is able to also manipulate the plants and stuff because she's also in tune with them. Although that could be a major problem with that is just the fact that her own plant eats her at the end. Yeah. Which is like a real... I never understood that. And when we get to that minute, I doubt I will understand it then. But
yeah, that really doesn't make any goddamn sense.
Are you trying to say that they are plot holes in Batman and Robin?
Oh, we wouldn't go that far, would we? I mean, you can't insult a classic.
That might have been, maybe Ivy spoke too soon because hankering for something in the water. Pursuing, that could be like a sewage pipe or something. So this place, it might already stink because it was infested with, teenage boys. But it might stink 10 times worse now because it's just going to be a lot of fecal matter and people's waste pouring in there.
It's possible.
Although it is manure, it's good for the plants, so maybe that might be the thing.
Also, I think perhaps Ivy's pink glitter seeds will actually fix the water supply as well.
Oh, they could cleanse it, yeah.
I will say there was a thing I enjoyed in, it reminded me because, Ivy doing up a household. They did that comic line for a while, Joker's Asylum, which was always just dedicated to different villains, and the Joker would kind of narrate them as if he were like the crypt keeper or something. And they had a thing where Ivy killed a guy and Batman came in and she was just like, oh, now if only we could build a house using the pieces, then we'd be really onto something. Like she wanted to avenge people making houses out of wood. She was like, I could just kill people and make houses out of their bones. Wouldn't that be something?
Like the house that Ivy built?
Yeah. Oh, there you go. It's just Uma Thurman's in the house that Jack built too. So
my God,
blends in perfectly. Still not watched that. Understand it's a bit much.
Oh, I wouldn't go that far. I just controversially, perhaps I just thought it was extremely boring as opposed to extremely grotesque.
Okay. Well, sometimes things that are just grotesque for the sake of it, I find them boring. Yeah, that's why I'm not. I'm not against that sort of stuff because I find it disgusting. I'm just like, I don't care.
Yeah.
Like, okay.
It's also too in the same vein, like Nymphomaniac. I never got around to that because 5 hours?
Oh yeah, jeez.
What are you trying to do to me, Lars? And then also Uma Thurman's in it, and I was like, should I watch it for this show? Because she is like a character very much infused with sexuality in this, and she's also in a film called Nymphomaniac. Maybe there'll be intertextual cues I could pick up on. But 5 hours. 5 hours.
If we get enough Patreon money, we'll do a bonus episode on
it.
I mean, I must admit, Nymphomaniac does earn the 5 hours, but the house that Jack built, there's some amazing scenes in that. But as a whole, oh my God, it overstays its welcome by about 2 hours.
Oh, wow.
Oh, no. Oh, dear. Well, if we get even more Patreon money, we'll do that.
We have to watch it live, for the first time. We have to sit for 5 straight hours.
We'll do a like a viewing party with the listeners if we get enough. We haven't set a figure deliberately so we can change the goalposts.
It's like, oh my God, we raised $2,000 already. What are we gonna do?
Well, we wanted more than 2, 3.
Oh, I said 200. That's what I meant. 200,000. That was the real figure.
Hey, for 200,000, I'll do an entire Movies by Minutes about anything you want.
But yeah, I should also note here too, just the idea of Ivy creating a new Eden. I was going to call it Hedonesque, but Edenesque. Little nook for herself. Is not a new concept. Just a thing she does frequently in the comics. At this point in the 90s, during the Nightfall saga, where they introduced Bane and he had his whole thing where he broke Batman's back and all that. Poison Ivy did have a brief storyline where she created Neo Eden, which was populated by loads of rich people that she, pheromoned and brainwashed.
Oh.
And it was only like a little one-issue thing, but Batman steps in, stops her, yada, yada, yada. There was a 1997 John Francis Daly one-shot where she just grew weary of this world and went back to Transylvania. No, she went off to an island and decided to create a new Eden for herself, kept calling it Eden, and was living quite happily there just by herself until standard military testing came along and they blew up the island. And of course, then she goes back to the mainland to wreak vengeance, and you're kind of like, good for her. That sounds fair enough. Of course, in the more recent comics, she did also, like during the, I think in the recent James Tynion run, it was discovered that she actually has like an underground under Robinson Park, which is where she also set up during the No Man's Land saga. But in the modern continuity, underneath Robinson's Park is this beautiful, like psychedelic, like really kind of looks a bit like this almost, really day glow, lots of weird, neon coloring and stuff. Essentially a haven that she created for her and Harley Quinn. And the two of them sort of lived there together for a long time. And when Batman has to recover, Harley brings him there, and he's just like, I don't know about this, which is kind of a shocker because you think Batman would know everything about the underground of Gotham, but apparently she kept that hidden from him.
He's not as clever as he thinks he is.
Yeah. So those are the idea of Ivy creating an Eden is like, that's very in character for what she would do. So,
and it gives her an excuse to do another amazing line. It took God 7 days to create paradise. Let's see if I can do better.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that. That's one of the best lines.
I love it. Yeah, it's just a ruthless arrogance and ambition that she has. I absolutely just lap it up, especially because Uma Thurman just knows exactly what she's going for. So it's so old-fashioned, over the top. At the same time, that's what I want from this villain, just like dripping in this Bond villain-esque energy, where it's like, I am going to do better than God.
Yeah. Although she might take the full 7 days, and then God would come in and go, if you read the text, I actually took 6 days to do it, and on the 7th day, I rested. So,
that's true, actually. Yeah. Oh, my God.
Yeah, maybe try again, Ivy.
Fact-checking the Bible. I love it.
Now, you've ruined this movie with that one problem you've pointed out.
But yeah, that's we do get. I do love her little, what is this floor? And just kind of tapping it, and then Bane, to fix it, just literally bursts a hole into it.
How very Chandler Bing of her, to be honest.
Yeah.
Could it be any more of a floor?
Hey, it's around the time, it wouldn't have surprised me if they put in a line like that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I would have been surprised if they kept going with this iteration of Batman. You might have got Matthew Perry as, like, he actually wouldn't have been a bad Riddler back in the day, I don't think.
Okay, yeah.
Oh, he would have been a sarcastic Riddler, though.
Yeah. Oh, I think like my vision of the Riddler in my own head all the time is like a Neil Patrick Harris, kind of like really smug. Not that Neil Patrick Harris in himself is smug, but he always sort of plays very, sort of uppity, smug characters.
Except when he's playing Hedwig.
Of course.
Yeah. Tying to my other podcast. Synergy.
Yeah. But yeah, so I kind of want like the Riddler to be a sarcastic prick, basically. It was like, Matthew Perry would be perfect at that. At one point, they wanted to have Matthew Broderick playing him. I was like, what the hell would that look like? But it's a goddamn disaster. But
it would have looked terrible.
Yeah, that was all last movie, though. That was all Batman Forever chat.
Yeah.
Still lingers over everything we do.
We can't go backwards now. Forwards, always forwards.
Yeah.
I want to praise the music in this scene.
I
think it's excellent, and it gave me vibes of like a Gogol Bordello when they're sort of not, going full pelt. Or the World Inferno Friendship Society, another band I love.
That's actually
that's such a good callback.
I was sitting. What it really reminded me of, weirdly enough, is like the Barry Sonnenfeld Addams Family, like the kind of Morticia Gomez music. There was a lot of violin. I was like, I wonder if that's what they're going for, because these are kind of like, they were a kind of warped view of a romantic couple. Yeah. Well, they are. It's not even a warped view. Gomez and Morticia.
They're
just
perfect
flat
couple.
Out romantic.
They're a perfect couple. Don't even dare insult Gomez and Morticia. But is that actually the same song though? I when I rewatched the scene a couple of times, I think it might actually be the same song, but I'm terrible with identifying songs.
I don't know if it would be the exact same. I wouldn't be surprised if Elliot Goldenthal was just like, I'm just swiping it. But I don't know. Like I don't know if it's actually the same exact tune, but I would say it's probably a good chance that he's emulating it as best he can.
Yeah, I'd say so. The plants like growing, I really enjoyed the effect on it, and I actually thought of all the people who would probably love those effects, it would be Tim Burton. It felt like something from a Tim Burton movie. So maybe that was a little, a little nod to him. Like we love your work, Tim.
He loves a creepy trailing plant, doesn't he?
Yeah. And I don't know. Even though it's like early CGI, it's got a kind of stop motion-y quality to the way they've done it.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very curious about these like huge bejeweled seeds she has.
Oh, me too.
It's like a real. I don't know what the scenario is here. Like we knew when she was Pamela Isley, she couldn't crack this code of like, how do I make these plant animal hybrids? And these are the seeds, and it's like somehow she did perfect it. I'm not too sure if it's because she herself now is a plant human hybrid, so she understands what she needs to do to them, or if it's more like she just magicked it herself. This is her putting her own essence into the seeds.
I'm very intrigued by that, and also the pink glitter. Like, could the secret be the essence of poison ivy and her ability to communicate and induce growth and plants? Be that pink glitter thing? Because the seeds are one thing, but then the pink glitter seems to be the magic fairy dust that she sprinkles on top of the soil. The soil turns pink, the water bursts from the soil as well, the plants start growing almost immediately. It's like that. And it's also when she's using that pink powder to control and hypnotize people around her. That's also kind of coming from the little plants in her palms, from the costume. So could that be something that she can adapt to different uses? I don't know. Is there like a background in the comic books about that?
I think the love stuff in the comic book nowadays, more recent ones, it'll always naturally come from her. She won't need it to like. It's more of a Sam Raimi Spider-Man who organically shoots web shooters rather than he has mechanical ones. Like, she doesn't need to go and create these things. They just naturally occur through her.
Yeah, I like it that way, definitely.
Yeah. Although this one, because I know later on, she does have this little vanity mirror where she blows pheromones out of. But then she also does have it in her hand. But she has a thing on her palm, which is like, is that where the pheromones stored? Or is it coming, much like Spider-Man, is it coming up through her palm? And she's just ejecting it in a weird way, or because I think even when she was born, or reborn, she had all that pink smoke behind her that looked a bit like the dust. So it's like, is it just erupts from her?
I think it comes out of her, whether she wants it to or not. Like, she's maybe a little bit in control of blowing it at people, but I always assumed it was like seeping out of her skin.
Yeah.
Yes. I assumed that as well, because even when she first resurrects as poison ivy, and she kisses the doctor, whose name I've now completely blanked out of my head. He dies. Like, the poison is kind of part of who she is. It's in her skin.
Yeah.
Can she kiss someone like she does to Woodrue, the doctor there, without poisoning and killing them?
That's the question, because we never see that. She doesn't ever seem to show interest in doing so.
No.
And in this movie, she'd be like, no, anytime I would ever kiss someone, it would be exclusively to kill them.
She's above everyone else. Why would she need to kiss them?
Except Mr. Freeze. She's got the hots for Mr. Freeze. But because he's so cold, if she kisses him, would she still poison him? Or would her poison kind of freeze?
Maybe that's why she's interested. Like, I want to find out what happens. No, you're right. Actually, well, speaking of Mr. Freeze as well, she calls to Bane. She says, "Bane, darling, I found a fellow who strikes my fancy. A cool customer, ... The minute ends. Who could she possibly mean? Mr. Freeze. But again, here is Bane, the cook. She's calling Bane, like, go and fetch me this other man.
Yeah. Looking about and things. And one of the things that's almost universally praised in this movie is Uma Thurman.
Yeah.
Like, even back in 97, she was like getting nominated for awards and stuff. But I have found someone online has written an essay against poison ivy.
I hate this
in this
person
movie.
already.
Who is this person?
See, it was a PDF that's available online. It seemed to be for a master's thesis.
Oh, well, maybe they're deliberately challenging themselves then to like, how can I find fault with this?
Potentially, yeah. I will also say too, for a master's thesis, I do professionally proofread for a living, and I wish they had contacted me because a lot of typos and it seems like it was hammered out over a weekend, quite frankly.
Maybe that's the first draft.
Could have been, but
Aren't all master theses and all theses in general hammered out over the last weekend before the deadline?
yeah. You keep telling yourself, "I'll do it next weekend. It's fine. It's fine."
Their thesis basically was that Poison Ivy is sort of anti-feminist in this because they had several statements about it. One of them is that she depends on men to do everything for her in this.
She commands them to.
Yeah, she tells them what to do and she manipulates them.
Yeah, but I think their thing was that, well, you know, why can't she just do anything for herself? It always seems to be like that and you know, actually we'll be sleeping into the next minute, but when she's talking about Mr. Freeze, she's like, I can use him to my advantage. So she's like, I want to manipulate him to do what I want as well. And I think this person was just like, well, why can't she just do one thing for herself? Why does she always need to have a guy do it for her?
So have you seen her manicure? Like, there's no way she's going to be breaking pipes and like trying to do housework with those nails. Come on.
Yeah, no, that's fair enough too. I think it's supposed to be just like, you know, she's obviously been abused. She's obviously killed by a man. So I think it's more like now she's flipping the tables. Like Jason Woodrue was like stealing her work, sort of left her in this the decrepit side of the castle, like sort of like dying in the heat and stuff, and then actively tried to kill her. So it was like, yeah, well, she's taking out her revenge upon like all of mankind now as well, just for some of his actions. And but I think one of their other points then was that they felt that because Poison Ivy is now like an LGBT icon, that this movie made her too heterosexual and also sort of like tried to fix her into like a domestic role. And that was just my major problem was they cited the whole like, oh honey, you know, go clean up this mess, we've got company coming, and like, oh, they're making her look like the wife and Bane like the husband, and it's making it look like a normal couple. And I was like,
oh, I don't buy that at all.
Yeah, I think that one's like, the whole thing is that it's a kind of like a joke. It's like they're so not a normal couple. It's like, well, yeah, that's the humor of it, is that extreme juxtaposition of like, of course they're not like a normal domestic household. And even at that too, she would be, you know, in the old 1950s thing of like the husband being the breadwinner. And
I think it's actually like complete. I mean, yeah, I will take the fact that they've made her extremely hetero in this film. Like she's just lusting after basically every single man in the film. Yes, to manipulate them. Yeah. Good for her. But I'd say if anything, it's not like presented as a couple at all. If anything, the only way that I can see them functioning as a couple is a kind of in a BDSM angle where she's kind of Bane's master, literally.
Yes, yeah. Oh, 100%.
That is the only way that works. Yeah. Totally.
Although also the need to like connect them romantically, I think kind of defeats the point. That's not the relationship between Bane and Poison Ivy at all.
No, I actually really like that about them. That there's never a hint of that. Like Bane doesn't seem to be following her because he's enamored with her, even. Like, he never tries it on with her or anything.
Yeah. But one of the other things they had, I actually did think it was a little bit like, okay, maybe that's a valid criticism, is that Ivy's never given any real motivation in the movie. Like, everyone else gets a good backstory. But like, we know exactly why we know exactly where he comes from. We know his past. We know why he's doing what he's doing. And because he's very calm and collected, even though he does like the first Gotham, that in the world, all that stuff, he has a rationality to what he's doing, as does Batman, as does everyone else. And they argue that Poison Ivy comes in, you don't know why she's into. She's presented as hysterical in the beginning, for lack of a better word, when she's just like ranting and raving about creating human-plant hybrids. And then, you know, the rest of the movie, she's portrayed as just being the flat-out villain, whereas Mr. Freeze has a sympathetic side to him.
Well,
and
she
it's
wants
like,
to save the planet. That's pretty sympathetic.
Well, the thing is that she is at one point planning to literally kill every living person on the planet as well, except her and Mr. Freeze. And it's like, well, I don't know. That can be like viewed as not entirely villainous.
It would save the planet if humans weren't around. So, you know.
She doesn't ever really say anything about animals, does she?
That's
no,
a good point.
I think she does have a. She wants to create the plant animal hybrid, but I don't know about normal animals. Then that they will survive this transition.
Exactly.
No, I don't think they will. Everything will become one.
Yeah. I will say, though, at least the novelization did give her a bit more of a backstory, a little more hint of to why she is the way she is. They have in the early chapters where, when she is Pamela Isley and she's talking about creating the plants that can protect themselves. Her lip curled as she remembered her mother's flower shop back in Seattle. The way those vandals had trashed it for a lark. The way they'd used their switchblades to cut and slash every living thing in it, every blessed shrub and perennial and houseplant. And the way her mother had never gotten over it. She could still smell the spilled chlorophyll scent of death, the stomach-churning stench of rotting cellulose, the bitter taste of fear and helplessness. So it seems as like she was obviously came from a bad area, and her mother's livelihood basically got destroyed, which was flowers, and then that affected her mother so much that it's hinting that maybe she was never the same woman after that, potentially abusive, potentially distant, et cetera, et cetera. But it's giving us more of a hint as to why Ivy would be the way she is. Michael Jan Friedman, who was on the show earlier this season, thanks for at least giving us that little tidbit. But
that's good. I like that.
I
Yeah.
love that origin story. That's adorable.
yeah, so the new 52 actually did a really good job with Ivy's backstory, I thought, because they revamped all the, it wasn't the Jason Woodrue murdered her stuff that is in the comics and whatnot, but they had a thing where she had a skin condition as a child, so she couldn't go out into the sun. She couldn't go out playing with other people.
Oh.
And so she was kept in the house the whole time. And the only time she was allowed outside was to help her mother tend the garden. And her father was very abusive. And he used to, hit the mother and stuff. And then Ivy would always notice him coming in with flowers to sort of win her back over. And it kind of cued her into like manipulation via flowers was there. And then eventually the father killed the mother and buried her body in the flower bed that they attended together. Eventually he gets arrested. Ivy goes into foster care. And the whole thing goes into college, starts using the pheromones, selling them as drugs, basically, to pay her way. And then when she almost gets expelled, she just uses some on the dean. And then she's back on top again. And eventually, she spills the chemicals on herself. That has nothing to do with Jason Woodrue. Although that was another point. The person who wrote that anti-Batman and Robin essay had a problem with the fact that Ivy's she doesn't take on the power herself. It's done to her. So we felt there was a loss of agency there, maybe. But yes, and then obviously the culmination of Ivy's backstory in the new 52 version is that she goes to visit her father in prison and then gives him a peck of the cheek, and that's the poison kiss. It's the first one. She kills her dad out of spite and revenge and stuff. Which I thought was a bit, because the original comic version of her was very much like she was just an innocent, naive girl from the big city of Seattle who didn't know not to trust this man when he said this and that to her and stuff. Nowadays, they seem to give her a bit more of a layered approach to the character. So, and hopefully that will be seen in further adaptations of her as we go on.
It's got to be at this point. You couldn't go back to the old school way of doing it.
I do hope, though, now in a post-Joker society, that we live in that post-Joker society. I wouldn't be surprised, particularly actually, and I know, Anna, you did a little mini sci-pod all about a promising young woman. I would really enjoy Emerald Fennel's Poison Ivy movie, particularly because her name is green and has a herb in it. So it's like the marquee writes itself, for Christ's sake.
Hey.
Yeah, I would. I mean, to be honest, can we just give up the whole Joker thing already? We've had enough Jokers, and we've had just one Poison Ivy. Can we have another one? Just one is all I'm asking for.
I love the Joker as a character. He's fantastic, but come on, I'm bored now.
Yeah, can we just let go of that particular villain? He's fine. He's great. Some of the versions of the Joker have been amazing. Some have been laughably bad. Some have been hysterically, aggressively terrible. I'm happy they all exist. Great. But can we be done? We don't need to continue telling this one story, retelling these one story. There's so many. If we're just sticking with Batman villains, there's so many more. We still don't have a good single Catwoman movie.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we have a fondness for that terrible one, but we know it's terrible.
As is my standard policy. And like, if I've ever bumped into Matt Reeves, I would tell him, like, if you're planning to do the Joker, not until like the 4th movie.
Yeah.
Give us a massive break from that character.
10 or 15 years, no Joker, please.
I think that was half of why The Dark Knight was so successful. Was because you hadn't seen Batman versus the Joker in like 20 years at that time. Yeah. Whereas now it's just like, yeah, they're doing another one. It's like, God, for the love of God.
Comics have the same problem, though. Whenever they run out of story ideas, it's like, wheel the Joker in.
Yeah, that was the kind of shock, the shock of that Joker War thing that James Tynion did, because I went into that and like, oh, God. And then when it turned out to be actually good, I was like, holy crap, oh, so you can still do things with this guy. You just need good writers to do it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so, well, that essay goes into various other things, like they just called like Ivy a home wrecker and all this kind of stuff. And
can we need this person to come on the show and defend their essay. Come on.
Which home does she wreck?
But she tries to break up Nora and Mr. Freeze by pretending that she's, actively trying to kill Nora Freeze, so she can claim Mr. Freeze for herself.
Right, this might sound controversial. I think there's no hope to bring Nora back.
Also, if we're gonna be talking about anti-feminist stuff, can we talk about the fact that Mr. Freeze literally freezes his wife and controls her body, her life, decides that she cannot die, and because he would be unhappy about that. And also, we never actually hear Nora speak, or we don't actually learn anything about her personality or who she is or what their relationship was like. We just entirely see her as a literal doll, a human being put on ice and ogled by her obsessed husband, who just cannot let go and cannot accept and process his grief, and instead literally imprisons her in this weird limbo between life and death, and just watches videos of their wedding, where also she does not speak.
It's creepy. That's why I think that there is no hope to bring her back. I think it's more about him not letting go. Like, it's like a metaphor almost. Like, he needs to move on, and he's not moving on, to the point where he's frozen her, thinking he can help her. And I don't think he can.
But it's almost like a very literal interpretation of the Gail Simone's, women in refrigerators, the trope that she bemoaned in comic books of, like, they're taking out the female character to add motivation to the male character. And it is true, like, as you say, Anna, like, she's not given any identity in this. You never see her speak in those videos. Nothing. She gets nothing. Again, in the novelization, they do have a little chapter where you see a little bit of Victor and Nora together, so you get a hint at who she was. But yeah, it's not important to the filmmakers. She is just literally a plot point. Like, that is,
exactly. So. It's hardly a home.
I feel a bit bad though. We end on the negative note of like, oh yeah, well. But does anyone else have any notes on minute 59 in particular, though?
I just appreciate home makeovers in general, so I was really enjoying this one, and just the color scheme of the whole thing. I know we talked about it a little bit at the beginning, but I can't imagine another film today, a superhero, specifically a Batman-based film, having this palette color until, I guess, Birds of Prey a few years ago.
Yes.
Everything was so dour and kind of trying to go for this gritty vibe. Everyone's obsessed with grittiness in the canon of superhero films. And actually, it was it's just really lovely to look at. It's just wild, garish colors. There's pink everywhere. I love that Poison Ivy, her color scheme is very pink, very green, very lively, and all the secret supervillain layers that are so thematically and colorfully linked to their visual identity more than kind of their character or anything like that. Yeah. Same with Mr. Freeze, kind of to a lesser degree with Batman, but it's just fun to look at. And I think, again, we mentioned it in the last episode, in the last minute, Uma Thurman is just doing so much of Mae West in this film. It's just a pleasure to listen to her when she goes completely high octane with the accents and with the I don't think necessarily knowing references to particular Mae West films or anything like that, but just the way she moves, the way that she even like kneels down and throws her rope behind her to plant the seeds into the soil. Everything just screams old Hollywood, pre-code old Hollywood vibes to me, and I love it.
Yeah, it's those attention to detail moments that really make it for me, and she's the highlight of the film.
We'll say too, like I did note in Birds of Prey, because it's exactly right. Like it is harkening back into the Schumacher color scheme in many ways, and also just even in like Black Mask's club, then because you find out the black mask he has is actually like an S&M mask, so it's even getting into some of the kinky elements that Schumacher can't help but infuse through the stuff. It's like it is maybe we're getting now, a generation of filmmakers through Kathy Yan and whatnot. They're like, I actually quite like those Schumacher Batman movies, and I'm bringing them back.
I think now is the time. They're going to come back. People are going to realize that they're fun. And they're interesting, and we could all use a bit of fun.
And I think there's a particular Schumacher trope that happens in this scene as well, which I kind of love, because I like a lot of his movies. And you see it in St. Elmo's Fire, you see it in The Lost Boys, you see it in Flatliners. I think you even see it in Dying Young, although I haven't seen the film since, I was a kid. But he always has a shot where kind of light comes through either a broken window or a really high up window, and it's just this beam of light into an otherwise incredibly dank and dark room, or kind of forgotten or abandoned building of some sort. It's very much kind of the layer of The Lost Boys, the teenage vampires in that film, and then also that weird billowy curtains abandoned place where they do all their experiments and Flatliners. Do you know kind of what the images that I'm thinking of? Like he always does that.
You've been thinking in Batman Forever, Bruce falling into that cave.
Yes.
It's like it's like one single beam of light coming in. Yeah, that's a good. I have to keep an eye out for that now for the rest of the movie too, to see if there's much more of it as well.
I'm always a sucker for that kind of a shot. So I'm gonna have my eyes peeled now.
But at this point of the week, Anna, we always do ask the guests because Batman and Robin is reviled as one of the worst movies ever made. If the guests want to throw down what they think the worst film they've ever seen is, and now you too, because you're a professional critic, is like, oh, this is gonna be this one has clout behind it as well.
Okay. The first one that came to mind, and I will preface this by saying I've watched this film several times. I've also shown it to friends of mine as like, you won't like, this should not exist. I think this is truly like possibly a satanic film, but who knows? Let's find out. There is a film called Slackers. It's from 2002.
I recognize the name.
It stars, and I kid you not, guys, Jason Schwartzman, Devon Sawa, Jason Segel, Jamie King. It's got a ton of good people in there. Laura Prepon. It's got a cameo by Cameron Diaz. It's got Retta in it. It is truly one of the nastiest pieces of shit I've ever seen. You know where a film just oozes nastiness? Like you watch it, it's like everything about this is so bad. Not necessarily the way it's made. It's very boilerplate, kind of frat comedy, university
I've just looked
comedy.
it up. The poster, it looks very much like that.
But it is so intensely weird. There's things that happen in the film I don't understand why they're in this. There's a great sort of special bonus episode of the Slash Filmcast where they talk about this film, and I swear to God, it was the first time I've ever seen any kind of critical podcast or article acknowledge the existence of this film that I thought I had like made up in my mind, except for the fact that I have a physical DVD of it because I like collecting.
The only proof.
It's the only proof. It's like I like collecting DVDs that are kind of weird, bad films from the mid 2000s.
Minute by minute podcast coming soon.
Honestly, I'm just gonna tell you, like, there's 3 shots in this film that I need to explain just to illustrate just how bad and possibly genuinely evil it is. There is a shot of Jason Schwartzman peeing in the shower, and he might have 6 toes on one of his feet. There is
that's actually in the plot? Or?
No, that's just a shot in the film. It has nothing to do with the film. It's just with the plot. He just pees in the shower. For some reason, we need to see it.
Of course, yes.
There's another shot of one of the characters having a duet with a sock with a face on it sewn on his penis. And
Oh my god.
also completely irrelevant to the plot, but it does appear. And there's another shot of a character who makes a doll from the hair that he collects from female students that he picks up with a lint roller on
No.
after the lectures are over.
Oh my god. Oh no. Oh no.
Truly. You're welcome.
Now I am genuinely quite curious about those.
Bonus episode at least. Come on now.
Looking up the poster here, the shot of Jason Schwartzman that got on the poster is the worst photoshopping I've ever seen. I was like, maybe it was just this one. It's like, no, it seems every poster for it has them all gathered together, and it's clearly not him. It's some guy with his arms folded, and Jason Schwartzman's face at completely the wrong angle, very blatantly just plastered over it.
It's so bad.
It is.
He must have
Truly
decided,
horrendous.
like, I'm above this film.
You would think back then, even back then, Jason Schwartzman was like, nope, I'm out.
The thing is, Jason Schwartzman is such a talented actor, musician. He's done some amazing work. And he started with Rushmore. Come on, what a great debut. And then this film, he's kind of ostensibly the lead, and he's genuinely his character nicknamed Cool Ethan, a nickname that he forces upon other people. He's genuinely probably one of the nastiest characters I've ever seen on screen.
he probably just thought, American Pie, I'll make that kind of cash and then I can go back to doing what I want.
Oh,
yeah.
I don't know. One day I would love to interview Jason Schwartzman about Slackers. I just want to know what the is going on. The fact that I remember so many things about this film genuinely upsets me.
I just like the idea, though, of you actually having Jason Schwartzman in an interview room and then start asking him about Slackers and him just looking around for the exit, going like, oh wait, no.
Yeah, he's there to promote his new work. It's like, Slackers.
I feel like Robert Downey Jr. trying to I it's not supposed to be mentioned. It's on my mandate. You're not supposed to bring up Slackers.
Oh my god! One day I'll write an oral history of some sort of what happened. Who did everybody owe money to participate in this film?
I genuinely think, Niall, Patreon episode, we're doing it.
Yeah, why not?
Dibs on that one, because I have so many thoughts about Cool Ethan.
But to spin things into a more positive route, we also then asked guests if they have a movie that, like Batman and Robin, is regarded as being bad, but you actually personally love.
Well, we kind of mentioned Jennifer's Body a little bit earlier, so I think that's a good one to bring up, because I think that movie is genuinely so brilliant and so rewatchable as well. It's one of those films that not only has gained poignancy with age, I think, not just because of Megan Fox, but also Diablo Cody and Karen Kusama, who was in kind of a director's jail for almost a decade, even though her first film, Girl Fight, won a big award at Sundance, and then she made Aeon Flux, and that was, riddled with studio interference and stuff like that. And then she kind of got punished for it. And when she got back to directing and directed Jennifer's Body, that's a really interesting trifecta of a female screenwriter at the height of her powers, like literally directly after winning an Oscar for Juno, she wanted to make Jennifer's Body. And also Karen Kusama, a really, really brilliant director who just in the last 6-7 years has really started to be as recognized as she should have been at the start of her career. And Megan Fox and Amanda Seyfried, and it's very much Megan Fox's film in terms of performance, I think, also at the height of her celebrity. But I think probably Jennifer's Body is the first, if not the only film that really uses Megan Fox in ways, kind of in smarter ways, to really capitalize on where her talents are. She's a great comedic actress. She knows exactly what people thought of her and how the media thought of her and how they treated her and how people cast her as well based on what she looked like. That's sort of the brand of hot that she was in that era. So I think it's a film that's just so worth revisiting. And I know the poster's shitty, and I know it's been kind of really reviled and put in trashy bin bags for a long time, but it's actually genuinely really, really good film and such an interesting text and kind of story behind it as well, in how it was mismarketed and how it's been resurrected essentially by fans.
Yeah.
My only major beef with the poster was the way that they photoshopped Jason Schwartzman's face onto Megan Fox's body. I think that was an odd choice. Or Megan's body, Jason's face, I guess.
Now we need to Photoshop his face onto the poster. Come on.
Needs to happen.
And make a t-shirt out of it.
Oh. But yeah, thanks very much, Anna. Does anyone have any final shots they want to get in at Batman and Robin or minute 59?
Yeah, all done here.
I'm all done. Love the outfits. Love Poison Ivy. Want to see her build a home with Harley Quinn. That's what I want to see.
Yeah.
Hell yes. Coming soon. Well, we'll head off now into the dark, dark night. Anna, would you like to tell people where you can be found online or promote any of your work and whatnot?
So I am on Twitter at Anna Be Demented. I try not to forget to promote all the stuff I'm doing there. I can be found on Wittertainment every once in a while, and I do 2 regular podcasts. The Final Girls podcast, when we'll start our new season in September, and also we recap and rewatch, and also covering all the expanded Ryan Murphy universe now over on the next Supremes with Clarice Lockery. We're currently recapping American Horror Story season 5 as well as American Horror Stories, and we'll be covering American Horror Story double feature and all the other stories that Ryan is apparently putting out specifically to try to break my brain.
That's it. He's heard about the show. He's like, right, let's go. Let's get him. Anyway, check all of that out, everybody, and check us out as usual on Facebook at the Bat Minute Listeners Cave, on Twitter at Bat Minute, Instagram the Bat Minute, and head over to our website. I never promote that, thebatminute.com. Well, do join us again next time, listeners, for more Bat Minute and Robin.
Next time, My Dinner with Clooney. The Queen of Chrysanthemums commands from her throne, while a clutter is cleared by her colossal drone. Belligerent blueprints begin to bud regarding the Batman's fate. But what delicious delicacies does the dining detective already have on his plate? Your table will be ready for Friday, Batmites. Same Bat Pod, different Bat Minute.
We'll be back.